directly to our next session titled Swiss Highlights, and it's titled Swiss Highlights 2. This session will showcase two important initiatives in Switzerland that highlight the innovative and collaborative approach that Switzerland is taking to build trust and further the adoption of digital technologies. This is part 2 of a two-part series. Those of you who joined us on Monday, the 10th, already heard from Nicolas Zahn from the Swiss Digital Initiative and Livia Walpen from the Swiss Office of Communications. It is now my pleasure to have with us Manuel Kugler from the Swiss Academy of Engineering Sciences and Raphael Etienne von Thiessen from the Canton of Zurich joining us today. They will both be sharing short presentations with you on their work. We hope to still have some time after that for a Q&A. So I will not go into their bios. Please look at our website, and of course you can familiarize with that. I pass the floor directly to Manuel for his intervention. Welcome, Manuel.
Thanks a lot, Taisha. Hi, everyone. So technology is the key to finding solutions to today's most pressing problems. We're living in a great time. That is at least a time that is encountering a lot of great challenges. And so here in this image, you see a picture of the Aletsch Glacier. That's the biggest glacier in the Alps. And there are actually very nice animations that simulate how the glacier is shrinking over time. Unfortunately, I don't have the copyright. That's why I can't share it here with you. But I like this picture. Unfortunately, it's changing. It is changing towards less white on the picture continuously. But technologies like these are very important. These animations are very important to not only visualize the scientific insights that we gain, but also to communicate them to relevant stakeholders and to evaluate different scenarios and measures how to respond on them. So technology is not enough, though. Of course, I think there are three main aspects that I find particularly relevant. One of them was already mentioned just before by Eva. So technology needs to be developed in a human-centered way. The second one, not less important, is that the users, as well as the ones who apply the systems, are empowered to actually assess the impact on the AI systems. And the third one is, for me, as well, very important, the collaboration between the different stakeholders, as we have very nicely realized here in this event. So thank you very much, Aisha, for having us, and very glad to support this conference or the summit. So in the next few minutes, I would like to share with you a few activities that we support from SATW that are trying to support this development, particularly in the broad field of AI. So the Swiss Academy of Engineering Science is part of an umbrella organizations called the Swiss Academies of Arts and Sciences. And the Association of Academies is the Confederation's main funding body for strengthening the cooperation in and between all scientific disciplines, and also for rooting science in society. So we are basically a very large network that involves individual members as well as member organizations. And we also work a lot with external experts and therefore have access to a broad pool of knowledge. We are mainly active in early detection of technologies that are relevant to society. We try to encourage the dialogue between society and science, and we are promoting studies that are focusing on the opportunities and the risks of new technologies. So the first activity that I would like to briefly present here was realized a couple of years ago, or started a couple of years ago, in cooperation with the Foundation Risk Dialogue, as well as the Swiss Academies. And In that context, we organized a series of events in 3 different cities throughout Switzerland, and we organized workshops in the fields of social media, recruiting of human resources, as well as medicine. So there we had experts showcasing different concrete applications in those fields. And we targeted the participants in the interested public. So we reached the broad age range, at least, of the participants. They were typically rather highly educated. But the main goal of this activity was to actually get concrete input on how human-centered AI applications could be realized and what aspects to consider there. So we collected a long list of different expectations, hopes, and fears towards the technology. And in the following, I would like to just share the 3 most overarching demands that were posed towards policymakers and the government. So one important aspect already touched upon already before in the panel discussion mostly as well, is that the participants wish to have a transparent and comprehensible way in where, when, and how they encounter AI systems. So that is not only important to assess the potential of these applications, but also the limits and where they might fail. Next, also important to strengthen the knowledge and expertise in those systems. So that is again important to assess the limits, and there it's not only important to have the ones who run the domain experts who run the systems in the field, but actually also of the users and the citizens who might be affected by those systems. And the third demand that was formulated was to overall enhance the human-machine collaboration, and there just optimize how again the systems are applied by the different operators in a transparent way, and again a human-centered design of those systems. So leading and enhancing back the first 2 demands. The second project or initiative I would like to share with you is the Network for Digital Self-Determination. That is actually a shared initiative with the Federal Office of Communication, as well as the Directorate for International Law of the FDFA, as well as Swiss Data Alliance, another association in Switzerland. And the main goal here is actually to increase the control and the awareness of different stakeholders regarding the access and control over data. So we try to promote trustworthy data spaces. Here you see a schematic that was introduced in the report by the Ofcom and the FDFA earlier this year, and it just visualizes the different actors and how they might interact in such a typical model of a data space. So further activities of the network are currently ongoing, and the FDFA and the Ofcom are working on a code of conduct for trustworthy data spaces that should provide guidelines on how the different actors should behave and interact in such spaces, ensuring that on the one hand privacy is preserved, of course, but on the other hand also enabling a better use of data. In parallel, we are working in collaboration with the Swiss Data Alliance more from a bottom-up approach, and we launched a few working groups that are placed in different sectors, so mobility, health, and education. And there we organized some round tables where we try to bring together all the stakeholders that are relevant for building up such data spaces, and also getting a grasp what initiatives are already ongoing, because there is a lot, but a bit the coordination is lacking a bit, and the big pictures, and we're trying to get their inputs to really make better use, in particular, of personal data in this case. So that is more a bit of an empowerment activity to also get the different stakeholders better control over their own data, but also enable SMEs and other companies to access data beyond what they might have, and provides boundary conditions to sharing data in a trustworthy way. The third and last project that I would like to show here is the SIROP, which is the Swiss AI Research Overview Platform. Here we try to map the different research groups throughout Switzerland that are very distributed over the whole country, and showcase their individual competences in the broad field of AI. So not only within the different methods, but also in the different application areas. And with that, we hope to, on the one hand, get a first contact point for making, for densifying the network and the collaboration between those groups, but also to kind of give an overview of what is happening in the field and how the further developments are going. So this project is again a common initiative between 10 different partners, the founding partners of SIROP, and we hope that with that collaboration that we also inspire the collaboration amongst the different research groups, as well as, of course, also with SMEs and companies, bigger companies throughout Switzerland, but also internationally. So we have the founding partners are also reaching out globally in different parts of the world. And of course, we are looking for more interaction as well, and active participation of the academic institutions, as well as reaching out to additional partners who then can further connect the different stakeholders throughout government, companies, and so on. So with that, already at the end, it was already mentioned before, it feels sometimes like a bit of a journey, that we achieved already quite a lot. We've come quite far. Then again, on the other hand, it feels like we're still at the very beginning. So with that, I hope to continue the discussion today and the exchange with you, and maybe potential future collaborations. And thanks again for having us.
So, hi everyone. Many thanks for the invitation. It's really great to have all these international experts here. I think it's very enriching to also have a cross-border dialogue for us at the Canton of Zurich. And my goal is to present you a specific initiative that we launched around 1 year ago in the field of AI. And this is the Innovation Sandbox for AI. First step is really important for us to also provide some context where we are coming from. I'm engaged by the Economic Development Department, so we might have quite a bit different perspective and come from a different angle, but I think the topics are very overlapping. Then I will present the project itself. I will provide some tangible use cases that really make it a bit more concrete what we're trying to achieve, and at the end, an outlook. And maybe for the context to start, I think very importantly is a separation we make at the Canton of Zurich between the application of AI at the canton for policy making, and then on the other side, the AI regulation, especially of market participants. So I think also this morning, I think sometimes we're jumping quite a bit between the different topics, but I think it's important to have the separation in mind. And the drivers of change here are different innovation processes that are so fast that it's hard to keep up for a regulator and also for us at the public administration to keep up with the pace. On the other side, we also see a global AI competition. I will speak about that in a second. And the third one is the societal aspect. I think Manuel also mentioned a couple of very important topics also to foster the literacy and also acceptance of these technology. So when we talk about the international context, we roughly see 3 different global AI regions with a very, very different approach. I think one of the questions for Eva was also a bit regarding this topic. I think the US, they have really great reach with global big techs and are also in a position set some standards also based on their big tech corporations. And the second big region, of course, the EU, has quite a different approach with the focus on responsible innovation, with the AI Act, a risk-based approach, as we heard before. And the third one, China, also with a very completely different approach with a vast digital domestic market. We also heard about the export of certain AI technologies globally to the developing world. So we have there quite some different approaches, and Switzerland is strongly oriented towards the EU. And we have also a mix of different levels here. At the federal level, we also have someone from the Competence Network AI, which is a kind of an entry point in Switzerland for AI topics. And the regulation is mainly done on a federal level. On the cantonal level, we see quite some different maturity levels. We are in the Canton of Zurich. We have some more resources to also look at these regulatory questions in AI, but with smaller regions, it's very different. That's also important that we create these over-regional initiatives as we are doing right now. And on a communal level, there is a high also need for orientation. Now, the Canton of Zurich has a big potential in the area of AI. We have already world-leading companies and research here in Zurich, and this is mainly due to the attractive conditions that we offer to the talents that are the main driver here. And our goal at the Economic Development Department is to drive and also improve the Canton of Zurich as a global AI hub to stay and even become more leading in this field. Now, how do we want to do this? We have a holistic approach based on 3 different pillars. And the first one is fostering innovation by really also creating new concepts, and the regulatory or innovation sandboxes are one opportunity here to foster the innovation also by changing the very conditions of the field of innovation. The second one is very important also to include the society, to foster dialogue. We also go to different communities and create these dialogues to also improve the understanding and the literacy in the field. And the third one is promoting the location. Of course, this is more to attract new business, attract talents and the research projects that are very global. Now, what is the Innovation Sandbox for AI? It's an initiative based on public administration, research, and private sector actors that came together and wanted to look at regulatory questions in AI in a joint manner. And we have come up with this concept for the sandbox. And here there is a lot of confusion because everyone has a slightly different understanding of what a sandbox is. I attended a workshop with 10 different people, and I think we had 10 different understandings what a regulatory sandbox or an innovation sandbox is for that matter. So originally, the people in AI that have a more technical background, they directly think at software development, codes that are tested in a non-production environment. So that's maybe the origin of the term. But nowadays, and also in this regulatory setup, it gets used quite a lot also to look at regulatory question in a controlled environment. So for us, the sandbox is a controlled environment where you can try things, where you can also learn and then share these learnings as broadly as possible. And that's what we try to do with the Innovation Sandbox approach. So we have one focus on the regulatory side, in which we support AI projects, and we are very broad here. It can be a corporation, it can be a startup, a research institution, it doesn't matter. AI projects are consulted on a regulatory front, so we look at regulatory questions. And the second one is the data provisioning part. The assumption is that there are a lot of data sources in the public administration that can be used for AI projects. And so these are the 2 main focus areas of our sandbox approach. And I will present some use cases right now that you really can understand what we are looking at here. So we had a submission phase in which a call was made for projects it was from March to June 22. We received 21 really exciting AI projects from various fields and sectors. And now we started implementing some of these use cases in a phased approach. So we started now with 2 of them that I will present, or with 3 of them. And the goal is to have 3 to 5 use cases. And one of the most important aspects is also sharing the knowledge. We want to create guidelines on regulatory questions, Q&As that we can share as broadly as possible for other actors in the field. Now, this is an overview about the projects that we have received. You see autonomous vehicles, education applications, mobility was a focus, health, sustainability. So it's really a broad range and shows you the very broad range of different applications of AI. And I will jump into 3 of the examples, and I think that will make it much more clear. So one important topic for many cities, small and big ones alike, is smart parking. And we partnered here with the ETH spinoff, which makes parking solutions based on computer vision. And the broader topic here is usage of camera systems within a public sphere, which is a highly sensitive topic, of course. We see here the license plates, faces might be recognized. How can we use computer vision for this use case of small smart parking systems in a small Swiss city? And what we do now is we really go through all the processes. We can't do anything that is not legally allowed. So of course, we go through all the steps. And what we realized was much of the regulatory questions that we thought of were more technology related. So it's more about privacy by design, technological solutions to address privacy concerns. I'll give you a couple of examples. So one is the image resolution is not that important to analyze parking space. So what we did is we set the resolution as low as possible so that faces, license plates, etc., are not even recognized by the camera systems. Second point, the cameras might be installed at a very high level in the city so that you have the camera images, the angle is from a high place, so that also the license plates and persons are not recognized. So with these different recommendations, we try to address some of these privacy issues and make this knowledge available for other cities who work in parallel at the very same questions. The second case is a correction app for schools in which also computer vision helps to automatically correct the handwritten answers of students. And here it's really about what kind of consent is needed of parents, of pupils, to really use such AI systems that are based on handwritten and even biometric data. And so what we do here, we partner up with schools that provide the learning material. We run the use cases. We look at all the regulatory questions. And one of the main goals here is also use AI to recognize disabilities such as dyslexic disabilities as early as possible, also algorithmically. The third one, autonomous vehicle. Here we go really into the regulation part. We have received 2 projects that we put together. An autonomous tractor that is in agricultural use, most of the time vineyards and also fruit growing. And the second one is a lawnmower for professional greenkeeping. So we put them together because the questions are very similar. And these are 2 very young companies, and we look at regulatory questions. How can one of these autonomous vehicles go from one field to another when it crosses a road? What's the regulatory question when you look at if these places where these systems are in use are open and even children or other people could interfere with some of these systems. So we look at these questions, we collect the insights, we try to make them available to other companies who face very similar questions and provide basically the knowledge and know-how to run these use cases and hopefully also to foster responsible innovation. Now, these were 3 different examples. Hopefully that was clear, and now you have an understanding what we're looking at. Maybe the outlook is also important. We are now running a pilot here, 2 years, where we look at 3 to 5 use cases. very small use cases. These are not big transformation projects. And then we do the communication and know-how transfer. The second topic is then the rollout, where we want to make this a bit bigger and also geographically extended, because we don't need 26 sandboxes in Switzerland for every canton, one sandbox. It's more about to have also a national or even an international view on these topics. And the third one is then also an important aspect for sandboxes. The idea is to resolve the sandbox at some point. So this is not a stable public administration structure. So the goal is really to get rid of it as soon as we have enough intelligence on these different topics on the regulatory front. And then we can transfer maybe some services or some approaches to stable structures within the public administration. And the third and last topic here at the long-term view is really to have an impact also on a policy level with regards to the AI regulation, that we can make informed recommendations on how to maybe adopt or extend existing regulatory frameworks. Thank you very much for the attention. Hopefully that gave you a bit of an overview of what we're doing here at the Canton of Zurich. And it's really great, again, to have all the international experts here also in Zurich. Many thanks. Now, I think it would be a great opportunity also, if you have maybe some questions, Manuel and I will, of course, be happy to answer them. So if there are any questions here in the room or also online, I'm not sure, you can, of course, yeah, there's the first one.
Do you have a sense that the regulatory issues around sandboxes, for example, for AI technologies are different than other tech that has been coming out recently, like social media or more just having more video around, for example? Is there something special about AI technologies that you have to take a different approach?
Yeah, I think not in the nature of AI itself. I think it's a very broad. It's a technology that factors in so many sectors. We saw it in the radar that there's so many cross-sectoral questions here, and also with regards to the rate of change. I think these are the most relevant topics here, because I see also other technologies that might have a similar approach with regards to regulation. But I think it only makes sense if the rate of change is so high that you really can't keep up with the developments. So I think in other technologies where the innovation cycles are a bit longer, I think it makes really more sense to have a traditional approach, to talk with the stakeholders, and to really have a legislative approach that is quite similar as the one we had in recent decades. Is there any question in the chat, maybe?
If not, I would have one.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So already, like the first use case, I think it was where you installed the cameras for the parking system. Did you get any response on already just the fact that you installed different cameras throughout the city? Was there any response from citizens and so on? And how do you communicate that sandboxing environment?
Exactly. So it's a great question, because it's a very sensitive topic to install cameras in the public space. We try to really address some of the concerns by first of all being as transparent as possible, and then also by the privacy by design mechanisms that I mentioned before. There are a set of different things we did, but one is also that we, for example, don't use video streams, because again, it's not important to have a video stream to analyze the parking spaces. So single images, which are much less sensitive, usually, generally speaking, than video streams, can also be used. So this is also something we try to address by privacy by design mechanisms that are much more technology related than actually regulation focused.
Do you make the data available?
That's also a great question. We foresee to make the data available to citizens, of course, because we want to limit the search traffic. So there is a regional app that will show the information with the capacities and recommendations where to park in the city center. But the questions will maybe also aimed at other maybe suppliers who want to look into the data, and that's something we now are discussing, if you could maybe also apply to get this data. Because one important aspect that you now brought up is within these sandboxes, you get a bit a problem sometimes of prioritizing single actors, single companies, for example, who take advantage of certain services in comparison to competitors who are not part of the sandbox. So there it's really important to also make the results, but also maybe the data as broadly available as possible.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning of the day, we heard a lot about involving consumers, involving citizens. Now, I know that both of you probably have, and I know, for example, SATW has done quite a bit of work on that, as well as it's a priority for Canton of Zurich. Would you be able to just share in 2 minutes each, what are you doing with regards to raising awareness of the citizens, of the consumers, starting with Manuel?
As presented, the first project was kind of trying to get the citizens on board and start a dialogue with them and to get their expectations and fears towards the technology. So our experience was very positive on the one hand. So it was 3 very encouraging events. Also the exchange between experts and the citizens and participants of the workshops was, I think, very beneficial, very valuable for both parts. But then again, as I mentioned as well briefly, it was mostly highly educated people. So there is again, you mainly reach with such kind of formats. I think you mainly reach a certain, not class, but certain type of people who are used to participate in such an event, and maybe to reach a broader diversity of citizens there. I think you probably need to go to the places and events and so on that are already existing, rather than create something on top or something new and go where the people are. I think that would be a further step, but then again, it's also a lot of work to to organize such kind of events.
Yeah, maybe from our side, we go, of course, in a similar direction. What we do is we kind of do a roadshow in the Canton of Zurich, where we really go to the villages outside of the main urban areas. And we invite the people, the inhabitants, to join an event about AI. And it's really targeted at the broader public. And at first, we were a bit concerned that the interest might be very low, but the opposite was the case. So we had really full house in most of the events, and people are really engaged and want to know more about AI. And what we usually do is we talk about the opportunity. First of all, there is a part, what is AI, explained in a very simple manner. And then we do look at the opportunities and threats. And one element that I think is very important is to also make it as tangible as possible for people. So what we do is we invite startups that bring their AI systems, robots, drones, whatever it is that is operated by AI, something that you really can touch. And it really helps to make it tangible for people, because some of these topics might be very, very abstract for the general population that is not engaged in the dialogue constantly. So I think this is a very important element, and we hope to continue this roadshow over the next years. Yeah, maybe Arvin, if there is any question, or in the room, maybe.
Yeah, first I must appreciate the deep thinking process, the way you are organizing the entire process. So I just want to ask one thing, because you told that you do a lot of advocacy events, you go to people, talk about AI policy, and you try to make it more in a democratic manner. So have you received any grievances or any complaints from the citizens, or like any concerns from the citizens once you have applied all these initiatives? That's the first part. And second, what is your grievance redressal mechanism, especially when if anyone got a concern or any question or any problem with your initiatives? So have you received any complaints or grievances?
Yeah, so thank you very much for both questions. I think for the first one, I think it's really important to engage the people in a dialogue, but you won't target everyone in the same manner. I think that there is a subset of people who really has a negative image of these technologies, and a lot of it has to do with the literacy and also understanding, but then is also some concerns might don't go away, and a lot of it I think is also with regards to the portrayal within the media. I mean, we often see the humanoid robot that something that is very much into the direction of general artificial intelligence. And I think that creates a lot of anxiety that you don't bring away. But I think to the second question, of course, we want to also use these channels to get insights to also improve our own initiatives. We haven't done it systematically yet, but of course, when we also present some of these projects, we also get a better understanding. For example, the example that I made with regards to the video stream versus single image, that's also something we learned in the dialogue with people, that they say, okay, if it's not a constant video stream that is filming what I'm doing in a public space, it might address some of the concerns. If that answers your question, maybe partially.
Thank you very much.